On my playlist for canvas canoe restoration, I've got a video on applying the canvas filler that I use, which is the Robson Mastic. It's a latex rubberized compound. Now that video was done a few years ago, and it's not really outdated. I still use the same products and then apply them primarily in the same method, but I thought I would update that video and add it to the playlist. I have my bucket of mastic filler here, and what I have on hand here is a bucket of hot water, which I'll just put on the floor, and a heavy sponge and a cloth. And I'm going to use that to rub the filler into the canvas as I apply it. Canvas was stretched on about a week ago. I torched it and I shrunk it, left it out in the hot sun for it to tighten up, which is nicely done. And then I have treated the canvas with a preservative. So what I have on here, and it looks a little off color here, but that's because I ended up using half of one can, and then I bought a new can, which is just a slightly different color. But leaving it outside in the hot sun for about a week, the chemicals don't smell that much anymore. You can actually still smell it in the shop here, but nowhere near as bad as it did a week ago when I applied it. So we're ready to go, so let's get to it. So I'm just taking a good dollop of the filler from the bucket and very carefully trying to spread it around, coating the canvas so that I don't really see any of the canvas underneath and it's nice and even. I'm going to do this in sections, and then I'm going to take my wet sponge and I'm going to rub it in. Being that it's a latex product, it will thin down a little bit and we'll get it nice and smooth. So after spreading it around and smoothing it out with my spreader, I'm now taking my sponge, which it's not soaking wet, but it's damp enough that it will thin down the filler so that I can rub it into the canvas. You can use a cloth, I suppose. Just don't want any sort of material to rub it in with that is going to shed. This sponge is doing a little bit of that, but I can clean it off. You want to keep your tools clean, keep your hands clean as you go. Once it's on there and damp, I'll let that to set up a little bit more, and then I can smooth it out again. So I've done about a quarter of the one side. And I'm just going to move my way down the boat. Doing one side only. Of course, the bottom of the boat is easy to do. The sides, you just have to be careful you're not dropping big blobs of it on your floor. This stuff acts as an adhesive as well. So if you get it down on the floor, you'll want to clean it up quickly, just with a big rag full of hot water. So I've kind of gone lengthwise. I'm just going to pull down and tuck some of the filler into where the pleats are from the tacks. That will be all covered by the gunwale later, but I want a nice smooth surface for finishing. The other side. Now if you get a bit of a ridge down the center line here when you do the two halves, most often that's covered by your keel anyways, but you still can blend in quite nicely. So that's pretty smooth and it's already tacking up. So it's only been, what is that, 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops to do half the boat. I've gotten down to the bottom of this bucket on the first coat here. I mean, there's still some good stuff in there, but there's so many hard bits dried around the edges, as in stretchy rubber. I don't want to have all those little nubbly bits end up on here. So I could have and should have cleaned the sides of this a little better as I was using it on the last boat, but We'll just move on to a fresh bucket. Last thing to do would be to just using my hands, same as in the older videos, just rubbing this into the end, creating a nice round or flat surface, whichever you prefer. Most of them will need a lot of extra. I probably put a couple of extra coats on the ends here due to the fact of the overlapping canvas, which will require quite a bit of filler to smooth out. And that's the first coat of filler on this canoe. I will add 2 more coats later today. Probably every 2-3 hours I should be able to put another coat on. The process is going to be exactly the same, trying to get it as smooth as possible. Got to remember, this stuff is kind of a latex rubberized compound. It's not so easy to sand, so I want to get it on as smooth as possible on all 3 coats before moving on to priming it with the pre-coat filler, which I show in my video at the top of this playlist series. So for those who have purchased this product or are considering purchasing this product from me, you can get it on my website, workaboats.ca. And I hope that this clarifies some of the questions that people have regarding how it's used and how I use it to the best advantage. So I've changed my ideas and processes over the years to make it simpler and faster for myself and simpler and faster for the customers. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.